Jeff from Audit Wales, and he's attending by Zoom. Hi, Jeff. And as part of the Business Intelligence Review, and then Colette McNally, Deputy Director, Head of School of GP Training. You're very welcome. Attending the board to observe, Simon Cassidy, Head of Placement Experience and Improvement, and Tricia Brown, Digital Toolkit. Hello, Tricia. You're very welcome. Dorothy, she will be joining us. Dorothy Edwards will be joining us as Programme Director for Primary Care, and Abby Landeg, is that right? Landeg, Primary Care Workforce Lead, and she's attending to present the Strategic Workforce Plan for Primary Care. I've also got Louise Leach, HEIW Strategic Programme Manager, AHP Workforce Transformation. She's attending the board to update allied health professionals, and she's here to observe. So I've had no apologies for absence from board members. Yeah. Oh, what did I say? Ah, see, that's the trouble when you read. I'm very sorry. Okay. Yeah. Okay, and so I've had no declarations of interest specific to today's agenda. Is that correct? And our interest register is up to date. So I'm very pleased to welcome you, Simon and Tricia. You're going to give us an insight into something that we're all very aware of and very interested in. James Sadgrove, our independent board member, is our champion for speaking up. And so this is coming as a good news story, which is always good to hear. Over to you, Simon.
Because we've rehearsed and we're on point for 8 minutes. So just
go for it. I will be checking. I'll be checking that. Okay.
So this is work that we've embarked on since early April this year, and it's due to come to fruition in Q4. Tricia Brown with me has been seconded to us from Cardiff University and has done some doctoral work in this area for 2 days a week since April, but now 1 day a week till next April. To see this ambition to develop a multi-professional raising and escalating concerns toolkit, not to replace existing organisational policies and procedures, but to help students and trainees make sense of their initial thoughts and feelings around a concern they may have witnessed or been part of, particularly during placement learning, to know who to go to and know that they'll have support should they feel a need to raise that concern more formally. The clear indicators in the literature that speaking up safely is challenging, as we know, that cultural transparency, compassionate leadership, psychological safety are key to decision making about raising a concern. And we know also that there's some trepidation about raising concerns because of the anticipation of repercussions. There are some clear links here for us with the Speaking Up Safely framework, of course, and having effective arrangements in place that enable students to speak up, not just as a personal duty, but ultimately to protect patients, public, wider NHS workforce. So we're particularly keen with the toolkit that we're developing to benchmark with the published toolkits, particularly in the appendices section, Speaking Up Safely framework. And we've seen an unfortunate lineage of inquiries across the UK and closer to home in Wales for us as well, that only reinforce the importance of cultural transparency, interprofessional communication, underpinning the quality of healthcare delivery, and what happens when those safeguards are not in place. So there are links between the toolkit development also with the duty of quality standards and enablers underpinning everything that we do, and that includes professional values, attitudes, and behaviours. So links for policy drivers, regulatory frameworks for raising concerns as key to person-centred planning in that sense, but equally, and this is a theme through Tricia's engagement, that we have a resilient system, not simply expect individuals to be resilient. So I'm going to hand over to Tricia for the next couple of slides.
Thank you. So we know that raising concerns and speaking up is potentially challenging for all healthcare trainees, so it's really important the toolkit was developed as a multi-professional resource so that will resonate with any trainee who's undertaking a healthcare programme across Wales. Using multimedia, this digital toolkit will feature real accounts of speaking up and provide an opportunity for healthcare trainees and staff to actually hear from people who've actually experienced speaking up. And I hope this will reduce the fear of the unknown, which is obviously cited as a barrier to raising concerns. And I think it's important that we include positive stories as well as the negative or constructive stories, because we don't hear enough about the positive side of it. Resources, so relevant links to professional codes of practice, regulatory bodies, trade unions, and obviously key guidance from, for example, Welsh Government Speaking Up Safety Framework will be integrated into the toolkit. And I'd also like a bank of educational resources that will be signposted for practice-based staff and academics that can be incorporated into curriculums of practice-based learning. Next slide, please. Thank you. As you can see, this is an overview really of the structure of the toolkit. We're going to use the page tiger format, and it was really important that the toolkit was clear and easy to follow. So it's been structured into 3 simple discrete sections. So before the concern is raised, during, which is the process of speaking up and raising concerns, and after, what happens next. So if we look at before, this section has been designed to provide support and guidance for healthcare trainees as soon as they witness something in that practice learning environment which is causing them discomfort or concerns. Exploring the nature of the concern can help to clarify thoughts and feelings, and a reflective checklist will aid the process of initial decision making. And this is really crucial, because if we don't get this section right, people might decide to stay silent rather than to speak up. So during, once a decision's been made to speak up, a flowchart will clearly outline the steps to follow to raise a concern. And links to assertive communication techniques might be really helpful because sometimes trainees struggle with having or structuring difficult conversations with staff in practice areas. The principles of accurate record keeping, advice on writing statements, and access and support for documenting concerns will be signposted, as well as information on how to access independent advice, such as Protect, the UK whistleblowing charity. After, I think this is really important, a lot of healthcare trainees don't get a lot of information on how the concern was addressed or any feedback on what happened, and that's probably due to the transient nature of placement learning. So this section aims to manage expectations of what happens now. But of course, a key element of the toolkit is this reflective element, where students are provided with an opportunity to reflect on the process of speaking up and to consider how this might impact and improve their future practice. Next slide. So we've got a couple of very, very short video clips to show you, which will obviously be featured throughout the toolkit. Just to say, we're very conscious of the emotive nature of raising concerns, so as well as consent, anonymity, and obviously not compromising individuals or organisations is a really, delicate balance. So this first clip captures a nurse academic discussing why it's so important for trainees to raise concerns.
The future. They're the future. They're the future in terms of maintaining standards, improving standards, and the gatekeepers of standards. And I think the most important thing during their training period is to give the correct messaging out about raising concerns. And we should be highlighting that raising concerns is a positive thing. It's a way we can learn about what's happening in clinical practice and identifying potential areas that need to be addressed in terms of maintaining standards and improving quality of care. Our training.
The next video clip features a healthcare trainee who's actually experienced that process and reflects on the process of speaking up and highlighting the importance of doing the right thing.
No matter what, you'll be doing the right thing, even if you think it's very minor. You don't know the impact that it might have on either the victim or the perpetrator, So I think it would be nice to discuss your concerns, or it would be good to discuss your concerns with your supervisor or your assessor, should you have any, because it will help to rectify whatever the problem is. And it will also give you the confidence to know that you are doing the right thing. You're advocating for whether it be your patient or your colleagues, because you have a duty of care as well to them as a nurse, as a student going into, registration. You will always have that duty of care, so you know that you'll be upholding your standards as well. Yeah, and I think it made me a little bit more confident in doing so as well. You know, the first time doing it is a bit scary, but again, you know that you're not telltailing because you don't like something that's, you know, bothering you, but it doesn't actually really much, you know, or you're trying to make trouble, you're making an impact by reporting what you see and know is inappropriate and unacceptable. And yeah, just remember your duty to do so, no matter what.
So we hope we've given you some indication of the direction of travel in developing this multi-professional raising concerns toolkit as a key resource, and also to provide some reassurances to those thinking about raising concern. And whilst it may not feel like it at the time, there are leadership responsibilities involved, and it's a positive and the right thing to do. So thank you to Tricia, who's done some sterling work to progress the toolkit so far. Tricia's done much of the groundwork in terms of capturing the stakeholder engagement, the students and staff stories, the videos, writing the narrative for the page tiger format, and thanks to Joanne Small from our digital learning team, who we're working very closely with on the further development here. That we've got more to do. The toolkit isn't intended as a panacea for all circumstances, but we hope that it will provide additional support and guidance for healthcare students and trainees but also when published, that it will signal a collective national endorsement of the importance of raising concerns and provide some psychological safety for individual students and trainees and those supporting them, particularly when thinking about the context of placement learning.
Thank you.
9 minutes.
Oh,
Having said,
we did have 10. We did have 10.
having said that, I'd like to congratulate you on managing the technologies and everybody around.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for that presentation. Jane is our champion. We don't normally ask questions, but would you like to comment on what you've seen?
I think that's really powerful work. From my personal experience, creation of that psychological safety is a vital component of enabling people to put their head above the parapet and know it's not going to be shot off, and to do it in a way that helps everyone improve the quality of what they do and avoid harm. I think it's brilliant, and really looking forward to it being rolled out across Wales.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. I'd like to make you a kind offer. I'd like to take this into the All Wales NHS Chairs Forum. I'd like the Vice Chair to take it into the Vice Chairs Forum. And I don't know whether there's a network yet for speaking up champions, but if there is, I'd like it to go into that network.
So we are going to circulate this, especially in terms of peer groups, because speaking up safely is a key aspect.
I'm sure it'll go through. I'm
Yeah.
sure it'll go through the organisational levels, but if we can get to the independent member leaderships, I think it just emphasise the importance of it, and that people can keep raising awareness of it at their boards. So diolch o galon, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. By the way, you guys have got that working. Ace. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm now going with your permission, please, into the draft minutes of the annual general meeting held on the 28th of September. Just the AGM first. Okay, can I ask for accuracy, please? Page 1, page 2, page 3. Are you happy that's accurate? Can I ask if there are any matters arising? Page 1, 2, and 3.
Chair, apologies, that wasn't at the AGM. I just wondered whether, first of all, the video that was shown, if that's available.
It will be available.
And the second question I had was on the Train Work Live campaign relaunch of it, where there's been an evaluation of the Train Work Live campaign to date, and any changes that were made, I wasn't at the AGM, but I'm happy to have that outside of the meeting.
Can you,
I will,
can you do that?
yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go now to the draft minutes of the board meeting held on the 28th September 2023. And as usual, for accuracy, please, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9. This is for accuracy. Page 10, page 11. Can I ask if you are content for me to sign these minutes off as accurate? Yes, thank you very much. And can we go to the action log?
Yes,
David?
just to confirm that all the actions have been completed, one live action related to the gender pay gap report, which is going to be uploaded onto the government website on the 31st of March 2024.
It doesn't open until then, which is why we haven't done it already.
Fine, so it's not those, it's the process,
No,
yeah?
we're well ahead of the thing.
Okay. Content with the action log? I'm going back now into the draft minutes. And this is for matters arising, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9. Lisa?
And if I may, Chair, actually on point 2809 stroke 4.5, that was an excellent presentation that we had at the board. And I think it doesn't reflect that you got actually the title of it in English, and actually it had an acronym of MTJW. So please can we have Mwyna geiriau actually was that particular report, because it was a Welsh report up there. I thought it was just reflecting.
What's supposed?
Loud.
Okay. Can we make sure that?
Can we avoid the acronym?
Yes. And can we use Marina Diver? We. Okay, thank you very much. Page 10. Are you content for me to sign the minutes off? Thank you very much indeed. I need to inform people outside the meeting that we did have an in-committee meeting under section 1 of the NHS Act 1960 prior to today's meeting. So I know you all wait with great anticipation and bated breath for the chair's report. I do want to say 3 things, or maybe 4. The first thing is we are in as part of public services and in the NHS in particular and social care, we are under extreme financial pressure as a system. And that means that our concentration on giving good care, good training, good education, and trying to provide good outcomes is really, really important. We take our role as the Commissioners of Education and Training extremely seriously. And I have to underline the important connection between investment in training and educating the health workforce is a real important issue, particularly at times when finances are stretched. We are responsible for handing over the mantle of the care of the NHS to the future professionals, and investment in this area has a value. Most of these people do training as well as provide service at the same time. They are a fundamental part of the present and future workforce. And I would like to thank our trainers, our mentors, and our educationalists for their part they play. Second thing I need to highlight was a really uplifting event, which was the staff conference that we held. And in particular, we had the pleasure of actually recognising some remarkable individuals and teams within the HEIW organisation. And I think for me, the impact that those people make in a more direct way than anything, how our health professionals develop during their most formative years and how they are supported. So I would like to say thank you to everyone and congratulations to the team. The third thing I want to say is that I'm very pleased to say that the process for identifying future independent members to come into the organisation in the new year is reaching a conclusion. The interviews have been completed and submission is being prepared for the minister. So I'm pleased to say we are on track. This is really important as the sustainability and the continuity of board business relies on the good offices of independent members. And I've completed the mid-year conversations with all the IMs, and it, as well as saying thank you, it has been a great opportunity to learn and to find feedback about how we can improve and what we value. And this is a really important part of preparing the board to receive new members, their individual induction, and how we as a board will reset ourselves with a substantial new collection of independent members. Finally, I chaired the stakeholder reference group last week. You'll see the note there. What I probably didn't reflect was a great deal of gratitude and thanks for all the partnership work that we're having to do at this time, and for their input and reflections on the work that's central to what we are doing. I'll finish in that, in preparation for the future, the board has agreed that Jill will become the vice chair in February. And I'd just like us to note that. We are preparing Donna to become chair of the Education Commission and Equality Committee. And she will first of all become vice chair up until February, when she'll take over chairing that committee. So I'd like you to ratify my chair's action taken on the 26th of October at the board development session to approve and appoint Jill as vice chair. Can I have your approval? Thank God for that. And can I ask you to approve the appointment of Donna MacArthur as vice chair of the Education Committee from today, and as chair of the committee from the 1st of February. Thank you very much. And that's really it from my point of view, from my chair's report. I know you'll have millions of questions to ask on it, but I'll take those outside the meeting. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over now to Alex, for the Chief Exec's report.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points to emphasise and highlight from the report. So, build up what the Chairman said about the education and training plan for 24-25. Clearly, we are in a difficult process at the moment of having to prioritise the plan for next year. Obviously we've had a conversation as a board around some of those important choices that we need to make. But also I think to flag this does require us, I think, to think about our approach for next year in terms of developing an education training plan, given that the financial context will remain a difficult one. I think it's really important that we have some clear parameters for the development of our plan next year. So we'll be going back to the board to discuss that in more detail in January. Just to note on the NHS staff survey, it closed at 20%, with 22,387 people responding to the survey, which wasn't 30% that we wanted, but nevertheless is more than we had in the last survey, and does give us something to work with. And clearly response rates did vary quite significantly from organisation to organisation. So I think there's something that's to do to look at why that was. There were lots of different local circumstances going on, but I think now that we've established the process, the pattern, I think it's about improving that, because clearly there isn't a lot of support for this from staff organisations, because this is done in partnership, but also from chief execs who were very supportive of this. So let's see what that information reveals. The most important thing is going to be that we do something about the information and that we take it on board. But I would really like us to be in a position that we can see in the long-term workforce plan in England, where they can convert this data to evidence based on the decisions that they make on the sources that they allocate. And I think that would strengthen our hand, really. And the other point to just draw attention to is I can ask you, Lisa, whether you wanted to, whether you're allowed to now just give a flavour of what the NMC figures have been coming through on nursing in Wales. Very briefly. Okay.
So effectively, as of today, the Nursing and Midwifery Council actually announced actually their position in terms of actually numbers on their register as at September 2023. This is a 6-month position actually whereby actually they reflect on actually the active content register across all actually the countries actually in the UK. And I'm really pleased to say actually that the number of registrants that have joined the register who have their addresses in Wales, let's be clear, it's about that's actually how they actually account for them, has increased actually in Wales. We've also seen a significant increase of first registrants onto the register as well. And if I share with you, that reflects these are people who have just actually completed their training, and it's fair to say they actually took and started their training during the time of COVID. So therefore the support that they've been given actually has obviously enabled them to become registrants, and it's fair to say that's the highest across the UK. We've also got figures actually in terms of the international actually recruits actually to nursing on the register from all the 4 countries. And this has increased significantly as well, but being mindful actually that some of those that are on the register are coming from what we call red countries. So in other words, they are countries that we don't officially go and actually seek support and partnership with in terms of bringing actually their registered nurses across. So to be fair to the NMC, actually they are mindful of that, and they are going to investigate that, because they're very mindful that ethically we should be recruiting from abroad, but not actually just going wholesale. But it actually does show actually an increase actually in activity across the whole of Wales for all our programmes. It was a really positive message, and I can share to you with the actual sort of members as to what those figures are. But it was a very, very positive outcome for us. And if anything, it's fair to say that we were better than the other countries.
Absolutely. Not surprised. Well done. Can you share that?
I will. It's been published literally today.
Okay. Thank you. Alex? Any more from your?
I'll take your question. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from Alex's report?
Thanks, Alex. And just to say, I'm aware of the changes to the NMC register, and that recent figures show that 1 in 5 nurses currently registered are international recruitment across the UK. So it'd be useful to see what the Welsh one is going forward, I think. Question I have, we've just had a presentation on speaking up and safety framework based on students. And I know that we provide leadership training and a lot of other training in that area. Will the programme extend to that area as well going future?
So, and I'm sure this is actually something that's significantly taken up actually by all our health boards currently. So I can share with you from a peer group that I attended last Friday, and I'm sure Pushachi and Julia actually echo really that this is something that all the health boards are taking up as well, to the point that there is a national programme board that you're going to be developed in order to raise that profile, because those reports actually are being scrutinised and being looked at in a broader sense of the word as well. And it's fair to say we took it yesterday, we took it to the partnership forum actually with our higher education institutions as well. So we actually raised that with them and shared with them as to what we are engaging with our students about as well.
That's helpful, Chair, because the aspiring chief executives and the other executive roles are also areas that we should really be engaging in. So, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay. No more questions for Alex. So, sorry.
Comment, and just to say how helpful the tabulation under the strategic workforce plans is to see the whole package together. You don't often see it like that. It piecemeal bits. If you reflect on how much work you see in the piecemeal bits, there's a whopping amount of work in here, and particularly welcome the indication of the extent of stakeholder and partner involvement that will be across this whole range. It's very impressive.
Thank you, Ruth.
They sort of a couple of lines belies a huge amount of work. This is
Well, I understand the uncertainties behind them, of course, which there are, but I think that's worth mentioning it's a credit.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to move on now to part 3, which is our strategic matters. And first is agenda item 3.1, approval sought for the strategic workforce plan for primary care. I think Alex, you're leading on this, and we've got.
I've got obviously Dorothy and Abby here.
Where's Abby?
Abby's sitting just behind Dorothy.
Hi, Abby.
Sitting me, Abby.
Come on. Come around the table. And we don't want to stick with it. Right?
See, the board is very familiar with this work, so we haven't brought a long presentation for you today, but we are at a critical stage because obviously this work is sponsored by the National Primary Care Board, so it's very important that our board signs this off. But equally, this is going to be going into the National Primary Care Board then for their support as well. But I'll hand over to Dorothy and Abby to just take the board through some of the key points for the organisation.
Go on, go for it, Dorothy.
Thank you. So really pleased to be able to present the draft strategic workforce plan for primary care to you today. As you know, this has been a piece of work that we've been taking forward over the past year, working, as Alex has said, with the strategic programme for primary care. Members will be aware the plan has been developed in response to some of the significant challenges facing primary care at the moment, with workforce challenges, but also increasing demand on services, and the fragility of some of those services is having a direct impact on patients, with examples of contract handbacks and challenges in being able to deliver services consistently across Wales, across all elements of primary care. And if anyone was listening to Radio Wales this morning, there were some examples of that in West Wales, indeed, with some areas where workforce challenges have led to contracts being handed back in my area. So we also know high quality primary care services are fundamental to population health and to health outcomes, but also in terms of the stability of the wider NHS. So whilst this has got a title of a workforce plan, it fundamentally is a plan for patients and will deliver benefits in terms of improved access to care, the delivery of high quality care, and trying to make sure that we've got the right number of people in the workforce as well. It also aligns with a major piece of work that I'm sure you've seen, which is the work that has been done by Welsh Government to look at the impact of long-term conditions on the NHS over the next 10 years. And that particularly has highlighted how we need more capacity in primary care, but also need people with the right skills to be able to sort of embed prevention into the service. So we've developed a plan with considerable engagement with a wide range of stakeholders, and as you can see, there are 26 actions in the plan, some of those with subsets of actions, but I think it gives us a really clear sense of direction for the next 5 years and provides that sort of strategic overlay really across a range of workforce issues, helping to address some of the key messages that we heard in the engagement about workload and about the impact that's having on people's health and well-being, about the importance of education and training and making sure we've got the right infrastructure in place to do that, and then a whole range of other issues, as you can see within the plan. It is a 5-year plan, and not everything will be able to be taken forward immediately and at the same pace, and we know that the financial situation is likely to impact on the pace of delivery. So we are working on a prioritisation exercise to look at which of the actions will have the biggest impact, which are the ones that we really need to go at in those early years. So that's all I probably wanted to say, because I'm conscious that you've had the papers and I've had a chance to look through that, but we are asking the board today to note the level of engagement that's gone into the development of these actions. They aren't things that we've sat in a dark room around. They are very much informed by all of our stakeholders, and particularly by people working in service. And then to endorse the plan today, as Alex said, ahead of submission to the National Primary Care Board next week. The plan will remain in draft for a little while longer. We don't intend publishing it until the spring, until we've concluded the work that we need to do around prioritisation and costing. So I will hand back to you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dorothy. As you know, board members consume these papers with alacrity, and you know, they certainly, I think, we feel we've been very involved in the way that this has come out of the ground. So are there any questions or comments? Jill?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks again for an opportunity to comment on this. It's been a great piece of work, Dorothy, and it's a really necessary piece of work. So really pleased to see it today. I've just had a couple of quick points. I suppose just one of the things that I noticed, the duty of quality, and whether that's sufficiently visible in this piece of work. The costing you'd expect me to ask about, because it's pretty essential, and I think I've raised it before, so it'd be interesting to see how we look at that and the prioritisation involved. Two quick points then. Can we learn anything from optometry? Because they do seem to be fairly successful at recruiting and attracting. So is there anything to be learned from that? And just a really small point, page 12, second paragraph, just to prove that we do read these papers. I think there's a word missing. That doesn't make sense.
Okay, I'll take John, and then you can come back. Let's John.
Thank you, Chair. Dorothy, I think it's right and proper that we thank you and the whole team and everyone involved in developing this document. As the Chair notes, we have had input in, and it's good to see that comments from the board have been reflected within the document. Can I ask about monitoring and delivery? So under section 6, we talk about governance and accountability. The report clearly identifies actions. How do you intend assuring the board that there's an appropriate monitoring system in place, and should that be noted within the document as to how we're going to do that?
Okay, Dorothy, do you want to take those two questions?
Yeah, thank you. I'll start with at the top. So we have tried to reflect the duty of quality throughout the document, and I think it's something that we need to continue to look at. So the plan is that we are looking at the individual actions and trying to consider how we assess and make sure that the quality, the core quality standards are built into those. So are the actions safe, timely, effective, efficient, etc. So that is some work that we're currently doing now, but happy to go back and revisit and see whether there's anything in the narrative that we need to strengthen. Yes, the costing work is happening at the moment. We are trying to take an approach which is sort of looking at what would be the ideal. So where would our sort of gold level aspirations be, and then perhaps working back from that and thinking about other options that we might need to take forward, really, whilst we possibly wait for there to be some new money in the system. I think it is challenging because we know that we may be spending money in the system that could be better invested if we took some of these actions forward. So I think there's a piece of work to do in terms of looking at where there are models that are perhaps costing us more than they need to be. And if we could get the workforce right, then we wouldn't need to spend in the way that we are. So that's obviously a broader conversation that we need to have with the health boards. But the intention is over the next 6 to 8 weeks that we'll finalise that costing model, and we'll be able to sort of pin a number or a range of numbers to the plan, as well as thinking about the actions that we can take forward anyway, because some of them won't require additional investment. So that's ongoing. I'm sure that there are things that we can learn from optometry, but I think we need to recognise that optometry is quite different as well. It's driven very much through a business model, and
Different set of optics.
Yeah.
indeed. So their ability to attract and retain staff is probably a reflection that actually those staff aren't employed on agenda for change conditions, and therefore they can respond to market forces differently. And I don't know whether anybody else has noticed, but even places like John Lewis and MS are getting into offering optometry services, which just goes to show that there's maybe a level of demand there
And
that is there.
macro.
Sorry?
And macro.
And macro, yeah, indeed. I'll pick up the typo, so we have a look at that. To respond to the commentary about monitoring and delivery, so we're in discussion with the strategic programme. We have had a joint governance arrangement with them so far, so that's been a joint project group reporting through both obviously to HEIW but also to the national programme, and I think implementation wise we need to continue to have that sort of joint mechanism. I don't think we can take forward the actions in the plan purely on our own. There's a whole range of partners that we need to deliver, so whenever we finalise the implementation arrangements, we're obviously happy to bring that back to the board for consideration, but we will certainly be wanting to reflect obviously the actions that we're responsible for through our IMTP process and into the performance management arrangement within HEIW, as well as whatever else we need to put in by way of joint reporting.
Ruth?
Okay. I've had a number of opportunities to hear this already, and one of them has been very helpful. So at this stage, just a couple of quick comments. Firstly, this is going to go on upwards to the national group, I can't remember what it's called, and so presumably this document is intended for their perusal. But there's been a huge amount of stakeholder and consultation taking place, and I just wondered at some stage whether it was possible to have a more reduced form of communication for them, because this is very detailed and it's easy to lose the story and the main points. And in that context, I think the proposal to do some prioritisation is really helpful, given the acute difficulties that there are currently in primary community care. Having some sense of urgency about it through prioritisation will be very helpful. It's an excellent piece of work, so thank you very much. But getting a more distilled version, I think, would be my hope. Thanks.
Thank you. I also heard the programme, and I've said that in a couple of things this morning. The key question that I wanted to ask was, under the involvement of the regulators of each of the professional groups, and because they're there primarily to protect the patient and the client. If there were challenges to this, what have been their suggestions, if any, as to how the Welsh Government or Wales might progress the primary care? Has that been included as a so what question? And if so, how can we protect the training and development of the people we're commissioning to train, making sure that they are in safe environments to practice?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So we haven't had direct commentary from the regulators in developing the plan. So we've had a lot of involvement from professional bodies who've been alongside us, and a lot of helpful suggestions from them in terms of how we can do that and how we can protect those environments. But I agree with you. I think the whole thrust of making sure that we've got those safe training environments and really invest in that kind of quality management approach within those environments is absolutely vital as well. And you can see there's a lot of actions within the plan that do focus on that, particularly action 14, I think, in terms of getting the infrastructure right for training and education in Wales. Because there's a lot of opportunity to do so much more within primary care settings that we're not able to realise the benefits from now, because we haven't got that level of infrastructure that we need going forward. So that will be a key ambition of the plan.
I think that's an area for development and share in the regulation. Okay, thank you.
And just to add to what Dorothy said, in terms of placement capacity, obviously primary care is an area that we are looking at the opportunity develop, to develop on a multidisciplinary basis. We're actually very cognizant that yes, we talk about the regulators and they all have their standards. What we're trying to do is actually work across those standards, because I think we have a belief that wherever somebody actually has a placement, they should all be of an equitable standard, and therefore that offers the further opportunity of people actually being able to have a placement in different arenas. So that piece of work is currently being undertaken by us. We're actually looking at that primary care opportunity, as well as, dare I say, this is primary and community care, and actually obviously our care homes are involved in that arena, and obviously we've done that piece of work with them.
I think that's helpful, Jen, cross-fertilisation between that and also what we just had in terms of presentation, speaking up from a student's perspective. It would be useful to see how they view their training experience. Thanks. Thanks, Jen.
So, any other questions or comments?
Yeah. So if we just come back with something raised, but it's a small point really, but in the summary forward, there's a list of success criteria, what success will look like, and amongst them there isn't one referring to patients or people or public. It's there in the following paragraph in very general terms about serving people in Wales, but it seems to me that if you've got some specifics about delivering for staff in various forms, there needs to be something about the outcome for people.
Yeah, have to look at that.
So I'm going to try and summarise now, Dorothy. I think we've had a good exposure to this in its stage of development, and that's very much appreciated, in particular by the independent members. I think for your information, you should understand that this is already having an impact on the discussion that the board members have had about investment in our education and training plan. So we are at a particular moment in time where the sustainability of an NHS has to reflect on the fact that primary care is the big flat cushion that the rest of the NHS sits on, and that over 80% of the contacts our public have is with primary care. So I think we do need to be very sure that we're valuing our trainers, we're valuing those places that train and develop the future primary care workforce. And we're noting that extensive engagement consultation, and I think we're endorsing the plan ahead of submission to the National Primary Care Board. I think we do need to do a job on communication, and that is about making it digestible for those who haven't got the appetite that some of my colleagues around this table have for level of detail. Yeah, but I think I very much value the fact that this has been to the vice chairs group. I think the chairs, All Wales Chairs group, also need a dose of this. So I would very much at some point like to take it into the chairs group. And could you spend some time with Jill and Ruth in preparation for Jill taking on the mantle of getting the communications with the vice chairs group?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that give you enough to carry on?
It does, thank you very much.
Can we please have this come back at some future date in the new year? Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Can you express our gratitude to the team on a job really well done? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm now moving on to agenda item 3.2. Leadership and success. I was going to say leadership and success. Leadership and succession program overview. And as you know, they've read the papers.
Yeah, indeed.
Julie.
Thank you, Chairman. So Fiona is kindly going to share a very short presentation for us. It's only 4 slides. So just before we get into that, which is a little bit about the impact, I thought would add flavour to the paper. Just to say, this paper has been brought for assurance here today. We were challenged also to sort of produce some promotional material. So you'll see there's a second document there, which is a bit more of a gothy brochure. And if anybody's got any feedback on that, that would be great. But our intention will be to sort of package that up and disseminate that around our partners as part of our mid-year offer. We've done a significant amount of work on leadership this year. We're punching above our weight in terms of what we said we would do in the IMTP for the year. We've accelerated a number of programmes. That has had consequences in terms of capacity and budget, and we have delightfully overspent, but we have spoken nicely to Glenn and colleagues, and we're covering those costs from within. So it's not generated a problem, but we just wanted to be open and transparent with the board and sort of make that point clear. So in terms of the presentation, thank you, Fiona. Can we move to the next slide, please? I just wanted to highlight for you some of the impact, because we don't often talk about this. So one of the challenges that we've got is how do we get compassionate leadership and all the work that we've done into the DNA of organisations, and that was one of the things we set ourselves for this year. So there are 3 examples there of organisations which are absolutely flying, I would say, compared to where we were maybe 6 months ago, with using the materials that we've produced, using our resources, using Bwrdd. So you've got Cwmtaf Morgannwg, who actually have just taken the decision to migrate all of their leadership development onto Bwrdd, which is absolutely fabulous. They're using the Bwrdd competencies, and they're also using a number of our tools. In the centre, we've got Cardiff and Vale, and I think it's fair to say that the Health Board has totally embraced everything to do with compassionate leadership, and it is running right the way through all of their OD and their development programmes. So we're using them as a test bed to test out new materials, but also as case studies, which we're busy producing. And then we've got Betsy Cadwallader, who are really interested in our advanced clinical leadership programme. And so we've put in place a cohort of the programme that's going to be run in North Wales, and their staff will be joining my team to observe how to deliver the programme, and within parameters that we'll set around standards and content, we'll be adopting a trainer approach. So that's 3 really positive examples of how we're starting to get this work picked up by other organisations. Thanks, Fiona. Next slide, please. The other piece of impact that's really, really important is actually what do people think? So our attendees, our students, our customers. And that slide just gives you some examples of what's happened to some of our fellows who've been on our programmes, what people are saying about their experience of the different programmes. And there is a video there that you can watch later, which actually is one individual's experience. But it's fair to say that our programmes are evaluating really, really well in terms of people's experience of being on those programmes. Thanks, Fiona. One of the other, next slide, please. I'll start talking. So one of the other aspects of this area of work, oh, the one before, sorry, there we are. Brilliant. So one of the other elements of the leadership programme is obviously about talent succession. And so we have accelerated this work, and this is one of the big cost areas that have led to the overspend. So we've got our aspiring chief exec programme and our exec talent pool, both of which are running at the moment. We had a huge amount of interest in the exec director potential pipeline, and we've now got 45 people that we are putting through development centres to give them a bespoke package of development and some ideas about how the gaps that they need to fill, as well as the strengths they need to build on. I think it's worth saying this has been, as I say, a significant investment of time and capacity, but we do know that 2 of our aspirant chief execs, we've got a cohort of 12, have been given in the last 6 months interim chief exec appointments. So we would like to take a little bit of credit for that, if not all. So that's that one. And then my last slide is just about compassionate leadership in practice. So it's thinking about, are there things that we could work with individual health boards or organisations on to spread and scale up? So Anira and Bevan are working with us as a partner, and they approached us to ask whether we could help them to spread and scale something that they were doing in their organisation. And that's the right-hand box. So improving employee investigations may sound a little bit niche and technical, but actually the benefits to clinical managers and individuals across Anira and Bevan from this piece of work that they started have been phenomenal. So we've got alongside them, we've been running training sessions jointly. We've got UK interest in this work. We've been dealing with the CIPD and the HPMA, our professional bodies, but also working with our clinicians to actually explain that there are alternatives to suspending people from work and taking them down formal disciplinary routes, when often the evidence would say that the outcome will be a written warning. And yet the damage done to that individual, to their manager, to the team, to patients because of the gaps in service is phenomenal. So we have got research papers, we've got a book in production with Plymouth University, we've got cost savings as a result, and Ironbeck have reduced their their casework by 66%. So it is huge. So that's an example of something we've got alongside a health board, and we're trying to spread and scale that across Wales under that compassionate leadership in practice banner. So just wanted to sort of highlight those sorts of things to bring the stuff in the paper a bit more to life. But I'm very happy to take any questions. Thank you, Fiona.
It's a great presentation. Thanks, Julie. Any questions or comments?
Thanks. I found the video because that was a negative, talking about the compassionate leadership and that kind of agenda, and I just wondered whether or not we've got a cross-fertilisation from the NHS in relation to leaders that have come from primary care or different types of secondary care. Do we have any data as to whether they're from particular groups, and if so, is it balanced across?
Yeah, so a lot of our programmes are targeted at NHS, but all of our regular resources are open source, so they're applicable to the public sector or private sector. We have got a lot of analytics on who's accessing our resources, so we can pull that data through. That was an enhancement that we paid for last year, so we've got that through now. With the compassionate practice stuff, we are actually working with CFD, and a lot of their membership is private sector. So we're trying to sort of push that across as in light of the Compassionate Wales approach. So trying to spread it beyond. But in terms of attendance on our exec development programmes, our clinical leadership programmes, at the moment that is NHS workforce. All of the workforce plans that we mentioned that were in Alex's chief exec report, they've all got leadership recommendations in them, and mainly it's to give access to some of our products and programmes. So primary care, for example, one of the actions there is to run some bespoke programmes for primary care leaders.
Thanks, Jim.
And just to add to that, in terms of actually those leadership programmes, they are multidisciplinary in nature. They are very much so. And it's fair to say this is actually how we're working across our organisation. So taking those leadership opportunities into every avenue that we can actually sort of put them into as well. So as an example, actually the team actually obviously attended our nursing conferences, they attended the AaGIC conferences, the midwifery conferences, just to share all actually the resources and the learning available. And that's been really well received actually out in the sector as well.
Now, comment on a question. Comment relates to the different approach to disciplinary work. Absolutely endorse what you're doing there, and it makes a phenomenal amount of difference to both the individual and the organisational culture. If you take that more compassionate and actually more sensible approach, rather than being totally process driven. The question is around content of some of these programmes. Do we ensure that we look very widely for content and comparisons, not just within Wales or just within the UK, but actually internationally, so that we can challenge people's thinkings and broaden the minds?
Yeah, we do, Jane. So and thanks for the feedback on the disciplinary work. So we've been working with Professor Michael West as a critical friend for 3.5 years now, and it's fair to say that he's opened a number of doors for us and opportunities. We've also worked really closely with NHS England and with HEIW before that, and obviously their networks were far greater than ours. We've got huge interest from overseas, so we've got interest from Denmark and Iceland. Scotland have stolen a lot of our products with pride, which is absolutely fine. We've got NHS England, there's a meeting coming up with them because they want to pinch some of our exec development programmes because we're further ahead than them. So I think from where we started in 2018-19 of being you know, the Cinderella really, not really knowing what our programme needs to look like. We've absolutely accelerated and other people are coming to us. But in terms of the range of speakers, we've got really, really fantastic networks, and the team really do ensure that the speakers that we get are very challenging. I have to declare an interest because I'm on the Aspiring Chief Exec programme myself, and some of the speakers have been very different and not usual suspects. So I've been a customer as well as actually as well as somebody who's designing the other programmes. So yeah, a huge range of the best speakers and best practice.
And like you said, that the difference. I had the pleasure of speaking to the Aspiring Chief Execs group, so I can assure you, some of the individuals are very different.
The speakers, not the
no, I meant individual speakers are very different. I've also been to the fellows, and I've also been to the. It's such a breath of fresh air to be able to see people meet colleagues from different professions and from different backgrounds with very similar and real challenges. The All Wales chairs are very interested in this work, and I would like very much in the new year to take the presentation that we've just given into that forum, because I think that we all need a bit of hope.
Yeah.
And I think for me, this should be titled, there should be in the title of this, working towards hope, right? Because it is hopeful, it's the future, and it's getting to the thing that absolutely cruel is very cruel, and that is ensuring good, positive culture.
Mm.
And that needs to be emphasized at this time, and it's related to the next agenda item, which I'm not going to delay much longer, which is about quality and the experience that our patients and our students have and trainees. So
it's really tying it back on talking about the future. I thought it was a great paper, and it's been complemented by a great presentation, Julia. So much in here that I would support. It's great. Just in terms of it was the Compassionate Leadership Pledge. Do those on the graduate training scheme sign Compassionate Leadership Pledge as they enter their NHS careers? And if not,
that's a very good idea. We've recently launched it, so we're looking for ideas. We're promoting it as widely as possible, and I suppose that has just popped in my head. We should probably ask ourselves: are we signing it? Because you can sign it as a group or as an individual. So I'll maybe bring something through to BTS in September.
Could I just ask again, sorry, what we're doing about ensuring quality and diversity in recruits to some of these programs, or all of these programs?
Yeah, so I mentioned the Bwrdd data enhancements that we've got, and one of the big enhancements was around our demographics and making sure that we were capturing that information. So we've now got data available on all of our programs. For our most senior programs, we're obviously drawing from the deputies and the assistant directors, and that pool is not diverse across NHS Wales. So we can't suddenly kind of find diverse candidates when we get to aspiring chief execs and exec directors. But we are seeing for some of our clinical leadership programs now, we're seeing a higher number of applications. One of the things that we've got, I've mentioned in the paper around governance, that we have got a culture, leadership and succession board that Judith Paget chairs, and that will be meeting in January. And one of the tasks there is to actually take through an update on the data. And we've been toying with the idea of whether we need to run these programs for different demographic groups. But the evidence on that is really mixed. So I think it's going to be one of those things we probably need to run for another year and then see if there is still a need. But at the moment, the indications are that more people from diverse backgrounds are applying. I'm not really necessarily getting into the
to keep a marker on it and make sure it's go back to it and put on the telephone.
Well, Julie, this work was never going to end. Right? It's so the board's asked to note the progress achieved by the culture, leadership and succession team against aim 3 for assurance. Yes, I think we have a good level of assurance that we're on the move. And we welcome the reporting this back to the board and goes on. And I'd certainly like to take it to the chairs in the new year. And finally, can you please thank the team? Yeah, for this really important and I think fundamental to the quality agenda for the NHS. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going on to agenda item 3.3, which is the update on the development of quality strategy in HEIW. You all right?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, apologies, the appendix to the paper came out this morning, which is a slide set essentially. So sorry that you didn't get that at the same time as the paper. I was going to go through it today, but I think we're a bit short on time, so I'm not going to do that now. But it really gives you just a flavour of what we discussed at the staff conference and the slide set that we used there for those of you who were able to attend there. And please, if you've got any questions on that, I'm more than happy to follow that outside the meeting. I've only brought this here today as a progress check, because we did have a lot of conversations about this during the summer at our board development session. And so just wanted to keep this very much on the board's agenda. And you'll see in the paper we have got a timeline there to enable us to complete our third quality strategy at the end of March. The approach we've taken to this is to start with some engagement and just some research. So with the staff engagement, we did use the staff conference to have a quality conversation with all of the people who were in attendance, and that has helped us develop some Mentimeter feedback and insights. And then we've done 9 focus groups over the last couple of weeks, and through that we've reached 120 members of staff, where we've used the slides that you can see that have been circulated to really go through why the strategic quality has been implemented in NHS Wales, what our particular interest in this is as a strategic workforce body, and how the standards apply to us, and how we've also got that dual role in thinking about quality internally, thinking about the role that we play in quality across all of the different NHS organisations as well, and then getting some feedback from staff about to what extent they already think that the steep standards in digital quality are applying to what they do, areas for development, and also to talk through the quality management system, which we'd like to see in place in all the different areas. And if the board remembers the conversation we had at the board development session back in August, it does take a little bit of translation to think about the duty of quality in a non-patient care environment, and really that's the purpose of the focus groups, is to have that conversation and to really sort of start people thinking about it from that perspective. So we're currently analysing the 120 the focus groups that we've done so far. We've also had a conversation with the stakeholder reference group last week, and I was just analysing the feedback that we had from that this morning. So some interesting things there coming through around what they think is already good, but also areas that we need to increase our focus on. And one of the themes is quite interesting. This is a better alignment between what we do and some of the top safety and quality issues affecting patient care, and where we're able to really target some of the training that we've got. So examples that we're given, things like infection prevention and control, some of the issues that come out of the incident analysis. So there's been a report recently on the most common areas, so things like medication errors, and things that come out of adverse incidents, and some of the areas that the Welsh Risk Report tends to deal with as well. So I think that's a really different slant for us to really include in our quality strategy that's interesting from a stakeholder perspective. Lots of other useful messages as well. And then in December, we are doing some focus groups for students and trainees, so those will start next week. So that'll give us a lot of feedback from lots of different perspectives on quality. And we're also looking at the quality strategies used across the UK in similar organisations, and where the health boards are as well. So all of that work is going to be coming together in Q4 to develop, not a huge, very elaborate quality strategy, but something that just helps us, particularly thinking about if we have a new board member, if we have a new member of staff. Well, this is actually our approach to quality. This is what it means, and also to make sure that we've linked in properly to the IMTP on some of those quality priorities as well. To then feed into our quality reporting, in places like the education committee as well, to have that sort of better clarity about what quality means in HEIW. So I'm happy to take any questions. We are doing this on a little bit of a shoestring at the moment because we haven't yet got this post in place. So this is extra work at the moment. I'm really grateful, particularly to Julie's teams who have sort of begged, borrowed and stealed people to help me pull these things together and to sort of facilitate those workshops with myself and other members of the exec team. But we're getting there, and I think it is really, really important. So I'm not giving that as a reason why we're not going to do it, but just to keep sure that I'm context really in terms of expectations at the moment. So happy to take any questions.
Questions or comments?
Thanks, Alex. Very interesting read. I just wanted a clarification. The activities will be completed by March 2024, not 2023.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to go back.
So when would they be coming to the education commissioning committee, the part of the training program? When would that be put on the work agenda?
Which bit, sorry.
Where it's got commission education training program.
Oh, that's, yes,
yeah,
sorry.
those activities.
Yeah, we're just doing the finishing touches to that in the next month. So whatever the next thing to the education training committee is going to be.
March. Okay, great, thanks.
You send you a board copy.
No, just letting you know.
Look, so I need to ask the chief executive a question. Have you recorded your presentation?
Okay. But I've given it to all of the execs.
No,
so we all doing it.
Yeah, I know, but actually, those of us that were at Team Wales, and those of us that were at the staff conference, right, and those of us that were in the stakeholder reference group, the clarity about the impact that we have on today's concerns and the future concerns, I think it's a really clever trick to put it in the way you put it. So I'd encourage you, because we're going to have new board members, but I think there are board members here who probably want to reflect again on it, so that we can increase the impact. And you're going to get so flawed if you don't, by doing it so anytime. It's great that everybody can do it, but I think coming from the top is a really strong message.
Don't do that,
Yeah, it's so I think we very much welcome as a board, I think, the development of this programme, and I think we're very much appreciate being involved in the very early stages. When will you want to bring it again to us?
Probably March now.
In March, so you'll go to the education, commissioning and quality.
Two separate things. But what I think what Tina was referring to is the work we're doing on the education project. That'll go together.
The components will go there.
But the quality strategy is a board.
Yeah, that will come to the board then in March. Yeah. Excellent. And when does it have to be into government?
I don't have the annual quality report, which so the quality strategy doesn't have to.
No, but the quality report
sometime in Q1.
No, normally actually when you're undertaking a quality report, it's for the previous financial year, and it's normally it's up until 31st of March, and it's normally submitted as Alex says in Q1. I don't think you've got
aligned with the annual report.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
yes.
Can we try and dovetail, because I think there's been a shift in our vision and a shift in our focusing, and we're becoming more relevant to the system. So I think it's a lot of the quality stuff in the organisation is really good, but it's almost invisible. So I'd like to make sure that we increase the visibility of the stuff we are doing anyway, as this then is a good baseline to show what else we're doing and how we're maintaining our quality.
I wouldn't be at all surprised actually if it is aligned to the annual quality, annual reports, because normally that's what it is.
Okay.
Can I express yes, but it sounds really exciting, and I have to go well. It's about the opportunity to sort out the relationship between this and research and evaluation for us. I would really hope that this exercise could incorporate that, and that we come out fully understanding that.
Well, John will be taking on
Well,
the research championing role. And I'm not a fan of championing, but actually I think the research bit is so important. This really does need to have, I think, the input that the IMs can bring into it. So, you know, thanks, Alex, and thank you to the exec team for putting their head in this. Julie?
Just one very minor point, by the magic of technology, I've just been told we have a recording of Alex.
We do.
Presentation at the staff event, sorry, Alex.
Okay, I'll be doing for quality.
It's you.
I've done it 12 times since then, I think it's got a good effect.
But this week,
Yeah. I think if you do it, right, it's contemporary and it's a great thing to have on record. Right, the slides are one thing, but to hear it spoken, I think, isn't it? Okay, sorry about that, Alex. We've come to a nodal point now. It's 1:10. I'm going to suggest a 5-minute comfort break, and then I would like to. We're asked formally to note the development plan for the quality strategy and the progress to date and the next step. Okay, you're happy? So I'm going to take a 5-minute comfort break for everybody. So it is now 11 minutes past 1. Can we get back here just after 1:15? It's up to you. Yes. Bring your lunch in.
So you leave it to 20 past to do that.
1:20.
Yes, okay.
croeso nôl pobol. We're going now on to part 3, strategic matters continued. And we've received the paper under agenda item 3.4, an update on healthcare sciences. Lisa Bach.
Diolch yn fawr, David. So this paper updates the board on the progress and the implementation of the healthcare science programme. So just as a bit of background, the healthcare science programme was set up in 2019 under the guidance of the Welsh Government, and it's a 10-year framework. So delivering this programme has been a strategic objective within our organisation, and it is actually part of our IMTP since 2020. So we recruit actually, and actually we've got a substantive role in an associate director of healthcare science who oversees this particular programme. So the overarching aim of that programme is to enable the workforce transformational change and develop across the whole of the NHS in Wales. So although it's on a trajectory, this actually just provides you a report of actually where we currently are. Now, for those of you who are not aware, healthcare science professions actually tend to be actually the profession we rely on every day, but actually are very sort of hidden actually in terms of actually what we do. They are involved in over 80% of clinical decisions, as you're aware, and obviously they played a key part and still do in our day-to-day running actually of the actual healthcare service. So in terms of the programme plan, you can see that actually in the appendix. That's visualised in terms of actually what that plan is all about. And you can see under there actually the components of many of actually which we discussed this morning in terms of culture, integration, education, etc. So as an organisation, we're accountable for the framework actions that are within our strategic aims. So that's actually why we're bringing it to the board and describing to you actually what has happened to date. The Welsh Government Health Policy Leads set the policy direction, so therefore there is a close alignment in the working with actually Welsh Government policy leads on this particular area. And then actually in terms of the delivery of this is actually through the directors of therapies. So it's quite a facilitative, actually we have to actually enable, empower, and actually sort of help actually the organisations actually to embed some of these practices going forward. And that of course is done through a number of actually avenues with clinical leads that we appoint actually on a secondment basis to undertake key pieces of work and then deliver and actually introduce those through actually into the programme. So if what we're actually asking you to do is note the progress. There's a lot of detail in there, and I take it actually that members have read the paper, so happy to take any question.
Oh, they've read the paper. Oh, they've read the papers, all right. Okay, can I open it up for questions? Thank you for that, Lisa, and especially for the paper. You know, I think the paper is really strong. So
Yes, thank you very much for the paper, which I thought was really informative. I learned a lot from reading it. One thing I learned, I hadn't realised there were so many. 700, I know, it's just it's useful to know. And also, to endorse the point that this particular professional sector, in a way, had an opportunity to come to the fore in the pandemic, which has emphasised to us how critical they are. I just want to say how sad I was in a way to see that they've had such difficulty accessing research monies in the past, and I don't know why that's been. But I'm very pleased to see that that's being addressed. What was the difficulty in the past?
I think some of the research difficulties tends to be because they are such small numbers and there is a variety of them. It's sometimes actually time actually released to actually to enable them actually to pursue actually a piece of research. So that's actually the starting point, and that is something that's been fed backwards quite continually. In other words, yes, they'd like to do more, but obviously it's that capacity, and that's actually where we're looking at actually how we can share actually the work that we've got actually working across HEIW in terms of clinical supervision, preceptorship, actually introducing those elements into the work currently. But I'm sure actually Push has got actually background to that as well from Wales.
I was just going to say that Healthcare Research Wales didn't always have openings for other professionals. It was mainly dominated by medical applications for the grants and for the time feedback for them. So it's been open to all professionals for the last 3 years, I think it is. which is a change.
This is such an obvious area, where people might be interested in and make significant contributions. It's just good to see. Thank you.
Thank you, really good paper, good to see the overview of healthcare science, because it has not necessarily had the prominence that other parts of the workforce have. Particularly pleased to see the aim to increase involvement of healthcare scientists in leadership programs. I mean, it's an area which has not had the prominence it's needed, and I think it's an area that would benefit from a lot of attention.
And that's actually where, bringing actually the leadership programs that we've got in HEIW to their knowledge has actually made a significant difference in that arena. We've had a very successful conference actually, and it was the first healthcare science conference. We held that actually in March this year, and that was very, very well established, and recognising what the needs of that for this profession is as well. And as well as that, there's now a very sort of vibrant healthcare science network across the whole of Wales. So that's a real forum actually that our team interface with quite extensively as well. But it's even understanding how many we had and where they are recorded was quite a challenge.
Yes.
Thanks, Lisa. I also found it quite enlightening. You mentioned that they have opportunities and training with Bevan. Is that the Bevan Commission or the Bevan Foundation?
Yes.
So is there an opportunity there then to have a multidisciplinary approach to some projects that they might undertake?
Yeah.
Based on the criteria that we're now using in commissioning, it would be helpful to include
expand that across there.
Yes.
Thanks. Donna?
Yeah, again, reiterating what colleagues have said, very helpful to have this paper today. It was just again highlighting, and I know the small numbers will impact on these percentages, but some services have vacancies of 20 and 50%, and how that will impact on service and actual provision, not just and how important it is that when we're looking at our support these services going forward and training them, how critical it can be, given, as you said, how significant they are in providing service.
Yeah, and it's fair to say this particular group is an integral part of our education training plan.
Yeah.
Not just in routine education that you'd normally think of, but we've explored the opportunity of the different types of programs that we can deliver, which supports this. So the part-time programs, etc., because this is exactly where, because of that capacity issue, they're unable to release somebody for full time. So therefore being able to do that part-time learning has been welcomed, and there's a number of programs that we've introduced as a result of that, recognising the needs of the service.
Any other comments or questions? John?
Chair, can I just ask, Lisa, in terms of the healthcare science apprenticeship framework, has that now been approved by Welsh Government, or what? Where is its current position?
I will come back to John. Actually, I'm not going to sort of commit to say yes, but actually that is something that once again, we're apart from working with the education and training plan, is working with the team that we've got on work-based learning, and they've been integral actually in pursuing that. Actually, I will come back to you.
And in terms of the apprenticeship program for healthcare scientists, that's absolutely something that I'm sure we would support. The paper doesn't talk about numbers for the level 2, level 3, and level 4. Are we talking about significant numbers? Just give us an idea.
No, not actually significant numbers, for the very reason that we talked about capacity. It's introducing that you the apprenticeships because they can't release them fully, but they have got an established apprenticeship network within the healthcare science arena, but very small numbers.
So Lisa, I'm going to ask a pokey question. And but the reason is, I think this is looking to the future.
Yes.
And taking into account this was started in 2019. And I've just been listening with fascination to the inquiry into COVID.
Right.
And the chief scientific officer and the medical chief medical officers all highlighted the difficulty people have in taking scientific evidence and aligning it to decision making. So my question is, to what extent has this been reviewed since the pandemic? And to what extent are we taking that reflection into our futuring? And the final bit, and this is not for answering, for me, it's how are we influencing the understanding of the non-scientists who are in the healthcare professions to understand and relate to the importance of the healthcare science workforce, because they may be small in number, but their impact, certainly for looking at futuring and innovative working, is absolutely key. And I think we have a role to play in improving the value, the perceived value and recognition of these people. I went to the Fellows Programme and they've got it. They've absolutely got it. Sat around the table were all the professions, plus the healthcare sciences, and it was refreshing, really refreshing. So those questions aren't questions for today, but I think we should have some excitement in this area, and I thought the paper was excellent.
But what I will add there, in terms of those healthcare science, actually in terms of the fellowships, obviously this is they are put forward as part of this programme, so they are supported as part of that programme. In terms of actually evolving developments, etc., you asked about actually refreshing this programme. This is actually reviewed quite on an annual basis. But what I can share with you actually how the involvement of the healthcare science professional groups actually are in the diagnostic work programme, but also actually instrumental actually in the genomics actually work programme. So they are there and they are sort of starting to take that forward.
I think we have to announce that involvement and make it very visible and tangible across our areas of influence.
They are key to that, and they've been recognised, and it's fair to say that Robert is sort of actually at Welsh Government is a true champion in that respect as well, and integrated you with this programme.
As an organisation, I think we should adopt a very positive and an enhancing approach to this, because the future is not far away. Okay, so we are asked to note the progress with the healthcare science programme, and I think we should welcome this work. I'm going on to agenda item 3.5, update on allied health professionals.
So you're having a flavour of all the areas that you guys are responsible for and all your professional groups. So what you've got here is the paper is actually an update with the board on the Allied Health Professional Framework Programme, which is obviously, once again, actually sort of overseen by us in HEIW. And this is actually, once again, a programme of work which was described and developed some time ago. But actually, I need to remind people, first of all, actually, allied health professionals, there are 13 of them. And it's fair to say, actually, there is a slight difference between actually the definition of the 13 in Wales to what they are in England, just slightly. But that isn't actually something that we see as a challenge. Actually, we've overcome that, definitely. They are quite distinct, actually, sort of professions in themselves, and undertake a lot of work, actually, in secondary and as well as that community care. Hence my sort of comments previously about actually how they wanted to move their arena into that primary and community care setting. They are involved actually in social care and obviously in early years as well. So they're pivotal in the future transformation of the service actually in the NHS. And we can see the radical changes that they are trying to introduce in trying to actually sort of avoid actually discharge into hospital, avoid admission into hospital, as well as actually enabling that discharge into the community and making people actually able to be cared for as close as home as possible. So as I said, the framework was published by Welsh Government in 2019, so some years ago again, and it sets out that strategic response of actually where the professions need to move to. And within this actually particular plan, it's actually once again actually that's actually visualised there in terms of the headings that we've got that we've actually done to date. What I will say, actually, this has been a challenging year for this particular group of professionals within HEIW. We've seen a number of changes actually within the team, and some of that has been as a result of actually the impact of the financial situation, where we've had people on secondment and obviously quite a sort of rightly actually they've actually secured this requested this comments back into their health board arena as well. So to be absolutely fair, they've actually worked enormously hard in actually overcoming all actually those challenges actually that we've actually encountered over the last few months. They held a deliberative event actually in November, which was really well attended. It was actually well attended by over 200 people, understanding about the allied health professional workforce and wanting to contribute to influence actually what that profession is going to look like actually going forward. And as I said, actually they've got clinical leads within this programme, which has actually really developed actually a number of resources. And the challenges that they have is because we actually don't deliver in health boards, what they've got to do is facilitate, enable and empower the people that are within health boards to take forward these good recommendations and change their practice actually in a transformational way. So it's quite actually a skill set that they have got. They've obviously published actually quite a number of excellent publications there in terms of early years and also actually in relation to the prevention agenda as well. So going forward, actually it's basically taking forward the duty of quality into this arena and across this particular programme. We are well supported in Welsh Government with the clinical lead there in order to take this forward and being quite helpful in helping us to do that. Happy to take any questions here too.
Thank you. So are there any questions or comments from colleagues?
In relation to the first destination, generally they're also included in the data that's coming. So it's helpful to look at that in relation to our plan going forward.
Julie? Jill and Alex. Jill? It's me, I got.
Oh, sorry.
I got 25.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, thanks for the paper. Really good to see this having the profile and thanks to the team for putting all this together. Links with social care in Wales. Just wondering where that was.
I thought if you'd ask that, Agility, in terms of, no, that's fine. So in terms of social care, this is an arena which really embraces actually their involvement and actually their integration actually with social care. So if I give you an example actually within the conversations with a number of arenas in social care in terms of actually the education of actually occupational therapists and actually how they can be actually sort of obviously trained, but also actually in terms of once those graduates come out, how they can actually be taken actually into that social care arena as well, exploring placement opportunities actually with social care, and we're also actually looking as to how they can, you know, in a way have rotational course as well. That's another thing that we're looking at, particularly in that area. This particular group of professionals are very, very close to social care arena and always will be. They would work closely as well actually with the primary care actually agenda here as well. So bringing across to once again what we described earlier as to how do we expand to primary community care to work in a much more multi-professional way. They're keen to explore whereby primary care GPs can actually obviously refer to them and they can pick them up and actually really address those concerns those patients have as well. So a lot of integration in that way.
So can I ask a couple of questions?
You can.
What's the coming plan to make sure we've got a strengthened team?
So I'm very pleased to say that tomorrow we're actually interviewing actually for the associate director.
Okay.
We've got a very good program manager and we've actually just appointed a project officer as well. Right. So the sustainability of that is hopefully on track now.
Very much like the infographic plan on a page. Is it possible to have a compounded one?
Okay.
And can we have it stuck on the wall somewhere like we've got others in the building? Yeah, because it is visually challenging to read it off.
Do you mean the ones that you in the appendix?
Yeah, I thought if you wanted to have a snapshot of what the logics are, a plan on a page is really good. And one of the references, it says a 10-year vision, and it started in 2019. So we're now in 2023-4. So 2019 is 5 years away. Yeah. Should it be a rolling 10-year vision? Yeah, and these aren't questions for now. It's just an observation.
It is Welsh Government policy.
Yeah. So for us, we've got a double guess So I think these are very important, these individuals and professions are very important to the sustainability in the future for care. So I just think I would encourage us to have the, as much as we're futuring other things, we've definitely got to future this. Yeah, thank you for the paper, really good. Okay, so we are asked formally to note the progress made against the healthcare science. Note, I've received the update on the allied health professional programme work for information. I think we should also welcome this very much and encourage the work to be put on a sustainable and proactive basis. Thank you, Lisa.
Okay.
Can you thank the individuals who clearly work their socks off?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Part 4. Sharpen the pencils. Yeah. Governance, conformance, and assurance. Put those red pens away, please. The Director of Finance.
I've got a few sharp pen.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Right? I just extract them from my back now.
Okay. Finance report. Obviously, the report sets out our performance against our range of key financial targets, but I think particular focus on this report this month is around our revenue forecast for the year. Important that we did quite a bit of work to do on the year as possible. I think in terms of for us as a board to be able to make decisions earlier in the year, but also given the wider financial context across NHS Wales, and our ability to have financially across NHS Wales this year as well. So we've done quite a lot of work in the last 4 to 6 weeks, given that we're receiving information now on the autumn cohort of students. We were able to start looking at what the uptake on those courses looking like, uptake on Bwrdd 3, but also those students who are either returning to years 2 and 3 of some of these courses or not. And all of these things drive the financial position and our financial forecast that we do. So a lot of work has gone on around those areas, but also with some of our non-commissioning budgets. So things like the mental health workforce plan, we reviewed delivery on that, and what that meant financially for this year as well. These all feed into the forecast that you've got in the paper. So you'll be aware that we previously identified an £8.5 million surplus, which we've agreed to return to Welsh Government. And the work that we've done in the last few weeks has identified a further £9.1 million surplus that will be generated as a result of all of these things that are largely being driven by our commissioning of education and training this year. We've made some estimates because actually at this point in time we don't actually know how many people will take up the bursary, for instance, this year. We have a spring cohort of students who will take up places on courses in spring 2024, and again we've made an estimate of what we think we will spend on that to come to this forecast. So whilst there could be some movement in that, I think this early work has given us quite a bit of confidence. I think what it also does is it demonstrates that we're beginning to use more and more some of the data that is becoming available to us during the year to look at things like financial forecasts, but actually it's got a wider purpose in terms of looking at what that means around commissioning education and training places. So probably important to say that whilst we're reporting the surplus, we are actually planning on and are spending more money this year on education and training than we did last year. So I think that's an important underlying message, is we are spending more. Surplus is as a result of us actually securing more funding this year than we did last year. However, I think generally the trend is that we're seeing that we're spending more on education and training. So that's a really important message when we
when we actually explain the narrative around how this circus has come about. I think it's also important to say that in the context of the wider financial position of NHS Wales, there are some areas where we took decisions earlier this year of summer to avoid spending money on certain things. So in areas like some of the external events that we run and associated costs, we took decisions to scale some of that back or do a lot of that remotely so that we could avoid spending money. And that's enabled us to generate within that overall surplus about £1.5 million that we would be returning to Welsh Government again to help support that wider financial position. So I think these are all important messages to the sort of the external audience as well as in sort of explaining that overall forecast. So that's broadly what I wanted to sort of cover in terms of key messages in the report. I'm conscious there's more detail in there, but happy to also take questions.
Thank you, Glenn. I'll just point out at this stage that the board members enjoyed a special briefing on this earlier in the week, and the importance of our ethical approach, recognising the pressures on the finances on the NHS in Wales at this moment in time. So I'm going to open it up now for any questions or observations, and we have agreed to bring these issues to our development session in December, no, in February, sorry, in February. So Tina, then Jill.
Question, it's just I thought these were a brilliant set of papers.
Thank you.
Seriously, the information that we had and been able to view on this occasion, I found really, really helpful, and from an education commissioner, just a huge thanks to you because it's so important. It really is. I mean,
I'll push back on to the team because they're doing a hard work. Thanks.
Jill.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I'd echo that as well. As one of my favourite questions has been about papers in the past. So very, very clear and easy to read. So thank you for the just a quick question on the patterns, I guess, of under and overspending. And now we've been in existence for quite a few years, so we can see a more of a pattern to it. Is there an opportunity as you go forward perhaps to look at resetting some of those budgets in line with
yeah, I mean the short answer is yes. I think it's part of the IMTP process. We're looking at what our priorities are, but I think we recognise that there are some historic underspend that continue, and I think when we come to agree with the IMTP and the financial plan that sits as part of that, it's an opportunity for us as a board to look at that and reallocate some of those budgets and then.
John.
Thank you, Chair. So I recognise the wider context of this paper, and again our responsibility to contribute to the wider context of NHS Wales and responsibility to support that. So I recognise where we're coming from and the rationale behind some of the arguments that are set out. However, can I just ask, how are we managing the perception of us in terms of us delivering our core business, our core responsibilities, and addressing workforce needs? Now, I accept that we've got a good working relationship and understanding with Welsh Government, but I'm equally aware that there are perceptions within health boards of what HEIW does, etc. And of course, this picture doesn't help that. So I think we need to be very clear how we are managing this with our health board partners in terms of the perception they have of it when they're facing significant workforce needs.
Yeah, I mean, the perception one, I think, we're certainly doing some work on, I think, communicating to helpers and trusts. The extent to which we are investing more in education training. I think you made a good point about the fact that we're probably not educating training enough people. And there's probably this year, there's a bit of a balancing act. I think in terms of the increases in education and training, they have been impacted on by our sort of our review of spend and any decisions that we've taken consciously to reduce investment in education training. So I think we've done a lot of work this year to increase uptake on courses. So as I said before, I think the underlying trend is still an increase in education and training, and there's more work that we need to do on that. So I think there is a story there that actually says we are increasing, probably not to the extent that everybody wants us to be able to do. But we've also, alongside that, made decisions around spend to help boards and trusts financial position. So from a communication point of view, there's probably more that we could and should be doing to really sort of nail home some of those messages this year.
Yeah, I think there's a really important point, John. I think there's probably a number of layers to the answer to that question, because I think obviously we're in the last month becoming aware of this particular set of information, so it's really important that we communicate that clearly with our partners across Wales. Because, and the other part of that is, I think it's really important when we communicate what's in our control and what's not. Because, you know, certainly if you look at the I think it's the September cohort, if we haven't put in place all the extra actions we have as an organisation, we would be at something like 64%. If it was just down to reclass rates. And certainly, you know, some universities have been more off those numbers than others. So I think, you know, we've put in a lot of extra effort to get those numbers to where they need to be. And also, I think as part of that, we've been able to look at diversifying some of those pathways into education, which is a positive, particularly for those parts of Wales that we know don't always benefit from university pathways. So I think there's definitely important messages that we need to take away from where we're at this month to communicate with colleagues. I think there is something we've been talking about our annual commissioner meetings that we have with each health board that traditionally have grown out of the medical deanery requirement from the GMC, but we tried to make more multi-professional over the last couple of years. And we had a conversation just last week actually about the need to make those into a more meaningful mechanism to have that conversation about educational training, because it's a collective effort, isn't it? We can only, you know, we are constrained by clinical placement capacity as well. So some people might be frustrated we're not training more, and yet we can't, you know, even if we could build places, people tell us can't do that in places because we haven't got clinical placement capacity. Therefore, we've got Simon Cassidy, you know, leading a piece of work about how do we spread out clinical capacity more, be more innovative. We've got simulation work, which is also trying to look at how do you substitute some of that. So I think there is, you know, definitely a different kind of conversation we need to be having, particularly with our NHS colleagues, but also involving university partners in that conversation, because you know those variables, we can influence them, or we should be influencing them. We can't control all of it, so we just need to reflect that back to the system.
And if picking up on what Alex said, in terms of those other initiatives, which are not to be aware of, all those other initiatives that we introduced, and that extends to not only listening to health boards because of there may be difficulty in recruiting that particular type of person, but working with further education colleges to understand how they can be part of actually our strategy going forward as well. And we've actually successfully seen that working with Powys College Centre Menai and Cyfarfod University in order to actually have that triangulation. Got another very good example actually in Bwrdd actually where we've actually started that work as well. So it's really exploring what meets the needs of actually our health boards And as Alex said, we've actually developed programmes because there is a strong message, apart from diversifying, actually that is about actually developing our current workforce through a work-based learning opportunity in order to get them into that registered workforce as well. So there's a number of aspects that are continue to work, and it is a credit really to the team that they've implemented those, because that's actually brought about the increase actually in the numbers that we've seen this year from last year's figure rates.
So I think I'm hearing a clear message that people want to hear the successes. We are marked against our own aspiration here. That's one issue. So I think everything we can do to encourage the collective to join us in that aspiration. And Alex, I'm mindful we're about to meet the vice chancellors of the universities. I wonder whether this is one of the themes we need to take into those discussions. I just think that the board members have reflected on the quality of the report. I think we understand in a much better way because of the information and the way it's been demonstrated. And we've seen linkages between the direct linkages between the money, the aspiration and the uptake. And there's more to go, but I think we're on that journey. So I'm asking us to note the performance against the key financial targets. I'm asking us to note the forecast revenue surplus of 9.1 million in 2023-24. And we're asked to approve the return. Should it be up to a further 9.1 million, or should it be actually 9.1 million?
It's 9.1 million, but it's in addition to the 8.5
Yes.
we've already, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is 9.1 million.
It is.
Okay, thank you. Revenue funding to Welsh Government in 23-24. So can I ask your approval, please?
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. We now go on to agenda item 4.2, the performance report and the performance development. Again, Glenn, sing the song.
Thank you, thank you. There's quite a few songs in this one, I think.
Looks more like an opera.
I won't, yeah. I won't pick my own.
Could be like the rain cycle, 4 parts.
Okay, okay. Okay, so you have the detailed performance report here and a cover report, which again, I've tried to just sort of draw out some of the key elements, which is quite difficult to do given the range of work that we do across HEIW and the impact that it has. Probably also important to say that in producing this performance report, and again, it comes back to that discussion on data and the development of data. I think we're getting better at collecting robust, reliable data and the development of dashboards to enable us to produce this information more readily and easily. So I just wanted to make that point, given the hard work that I think goes on behind producing this information. And obviously the performance report to the board is a key sort of product of that. So generally good progress across most of the sort of deliverables that were within our IMTP. Again, I wanted to focus a little bit on the education and training places because of where we were in the year and again, sort of linking it to the sort of financial forecast. And you will see that overall, we've seen an improvement in uptake or fill rates here. There is a level of detail within the data and certainly the dashboards that we're using that allows us to start looking at where this is differential across different HEIs. And I think so more and more we'll be able to bring some of that insight into the performance report, but also to other reports that come to committees. I wanted to highlight that obviously there are some areas of the our IMTP that are slightly delayed, but we're expecting those areas to be back on track by the end of the year, and then 2 deliverables where again we've explained the reasons in the report we've effectively closed those down as deliverables this year. One of the things that we try to do within the performance report is to also highlight some of the internal performance, particularly around things like workforce. And again, I think it was pleasing to see that a lot of the focus internally on things like PADRs, for instance, has meant that actually we've seen a significant improvement in compliance on those. So again, you know, wanted to bring some of that to the board's attention. I'm conscious, as I said before, there's a lot of detail in the performance report. So perhaps if I pause at this point and then have to take in the questions again.
Again, I know colleagues have read this report. So can I take comments and questions, please? John?
Thank you, Chair. So I think the team should be congratulated on how this report is developing, Chair. The executive summary that we got as part of Appendix 2, I think it is, where each performance is rated and there's a narrative around that. So from an assurance board perspective, you know, I'm not, I shouldn't say, I'm not particularly concerned about, you know, getting into detail about it, but I need that assurance that what we're saying we're doing on time and in a proper way. So it's a significant development, and I think the team should be thanked for that. What I would say as a challenge back, Glyn, to the team, and I think we've had this discussion before, what would be helpful at some point, when you alluded to it, and it's within the report, there are some that are delayed, and you say, we're expecting those to be back on track by the end of the year. Now, from our perspective, what I think would be helpful is some indication around timelines. So, you know, what's outstanding, why is it outstanding, and when can we be expecting it to be back on track? Just that sort of way. So the narrative is helpful, but there's more to performance than just a process narrative. I think an understanding at board level of, look, these are still outstanding, but we're doing this and it'll be done by such as that. If not, then we can ask the question, why not? And they may well be, as you rightly said earlier, Alex, some of these are beyond the control of the organisation, and we have to rely on partners, etc. So absolutely welcome the report. It's very positive. We know clearly where we are on amber, where we've got green, and the process that they involve. My additional challenge at some point would be for us to consider some time later.
Thank you, John. Thank you. This is never going to stop developing.
Thank you. Could I ask about there are two items which are potentially for removal, and one of them relates to multidisciplinary education training. I understand the context of that because of staffing and recruitment proposals, but you know, it's an important area of our business, and I just wanted reassurance that at some point it will reappear if we have a new framework. Is it wise to lose it? Is what I'm asking.
I think we are intending to do some oversight on that, so I'm not going to rush to start that work. There will be conversations going on across the UK. But so we're not losing it completely, but we don't feel we want to put it as part of our sort of key to results that we think we're going to substantially move forward this year. The reasons that we talked about in capacity. So we're not losing it, we're just part of it next year.
I just want to believe that it isn't lost, and we haven't tagged for it somehow, but it's a key development area for us.
So the track for next year as well.
Donna and Tina.
Yeah, thank you for the reports. This may come over as because it's not meant to have been here before, so you kind of get a report where you get a lot of information. So at least can make it more succinct, and then you make it more succinct, and people want more information. And I've been around that cycle many times. So there was a little bit when I read this that the level of detail in places was just too detailed for me. But what I thought would be coming to the board level. So, you know, for example,
you know, knowing that 2 ESR codes have been changed, you know, probably I didn't need to know that. And also I was kind of reading it through, and you know, the chair knows we read every line, I am.
They do.
We do, and you kind of think, is this month's or this report, not months necessarily, but because some of the data looks like maybe actually read the report, it hasn't been updated. So there were some things in there which said, you know, we'll know this position by the end of October, and now we're at the end of November when the report's coming. And you know, and then there were some bits which just left me hanging, going, oh, I want to know that. So, you know, there was a line in there about the trainee pharmacists and the fact that because we lost potentially 20 across the border into England because we didn't have a confirmation of our places in the right portal. So I'm kind of like, well, good, but what are we doing about that? So there's, I hope you don't take it in the wrong way, but for me, the balance had gone very, very granular in places, and
That's the trouble when you do these reports.
I know
You get difficult questions.
And no, that's not, I mean, I won't take it as a sort of a negative criticism, because I think it's a fair challenge, and
yeah.
I think for me, I mean, I've noted, and one of the things we're working on internally is how we make it more relevant to the board, how we make sure that it's timely. Some of the things are obvious, really, aren't they? A lot of the data is based on the first 2 quarters of the year, which probably goes back to your point about, you know, is it up to date? So I think we still have more work to do on some of the data capture, and there is something about how relevant some of this is for discussion on board as well. So I'll take that feedback on board.
Yeah, and it's just that, and I recognise that there will be things that won't be updated because it's no new data, but it would also be quite good into the bits that were challenged or had changed or color coded in a particular way, or you know that that's a new bit. That's
Yeah, I just want to make the point that that's a collective job for us all to do, because then obviously this team produces that report, but everybody, the execs around the table are responsible for those reports in their areas. So I know we're constantly on an improvement curve with trying to get our teams across the organisation to understand, you know, when there's need for detail and when there's need for assurance, and how we sort of you know, we evolve that between what's needed operationally by individual teams, what's needed by the exec team, and then, you know, slightly different what's needed by the board. So we actually take that on. It's useful to have that.
Perhaps there needs to be a sort of health warning with it. Is that you know, each time you come, is there anything you feel you had too much detail? Is there anything you feel you want more detail? And it will be a bit choppy changing, but I think I'm hearing that this is improving, that the board members, independent members who read this it sounds sad, are quite excited by it. Yeah. Because it's a fun. It is a really interesting thing to be able to get up in the helicopter and look, and then suddenly realise you're going to land on the ground or take back up again. So it's a concertina. So is there anything else? Tina?
Thanks.
I just wanted to ask a question in relation to working with paper that the reservist model pilot business case went to Welsh Government and wasn't taken forward. There's a lot of work put into that potential pilot by the staff here to try and deal with the agency expenditure. I just wondered whether we have a template of other projects that we put forward to recommend changes or improvements in workforce that have actually been defined, and you know, so that we can actually see where we're trying to make that impact, and things are not taken forward for a variety of reasons. Because you've got a lot of positive stuff in here, but again, there's no template that you could actually look and say, well, we put this forward X number of times.
So normally we have the Midas touch. So this is another example of the reverse Midas touch, where we've done a lot of work and it doesn't happen. So aborted projects, we learn a lot from that. Yeah.
So it's the only one in 5 years. And what we've done is we carried through the pilot to completion. So we were able to write it up as a best practice model to complete the work on the resources that would be available. So that is there for organisations to take up and use if they wanted to. Their main barrier will be around finance as well. And that was the reason why we're not rolling that out nationally, but it's all there. So when the money tap gets filled back on, we or organisations could use that. So yes, we didn't progress to roll it out nationally, but it's a huge piece of learning and we've got products out of the work. So
it would have been interesting to know the impact that it potentially had with pilot against the agency expenditure, which is on an increase. Yeah, and a substantial increase from what I was from perspective and each of the health board. So it'd be interesting to look back and just thanks, Jim.
So you've asked us to receive the report.
I just wanted to make a point of that in a previous meeting, Chairman, you asked for an index or some sort of standard and data definition. So just to make the point at the end of the report now, we're starting to get into that quality assurance of the data across data and the performance team working together to achieve that. So I just think it's an element of our maturity of the business intelligence that we're going on as the organisation.
Thank you, Sean. I have to say, it must be very irritating to have all these wishes sort of pattern blasted at you. And we do recognise that, you know, you press one button and it sends a lot of hairs around. However, it's the role of the independent members to make sure that we're as great as we can be and to demonstrate we're as good as we can be, right? So, you know, having the data has been has led to more problems for you. So, you know, I'm not going to apologise for it, but it is the reality. So we're going to receive the report for assurance, and I think the board have reflected their appreciation of improving the improvements in the report. And again, we had some suggestions for you to reflect on how to further culture and cultivate this beast.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We look forward to where it grows. Integrated medium-term plan update. Who's leading this? You are?
I am.
No pressure, Glenn. The board members have read the paper.
Yes, and this is an update, given that we're sort of partway through developing the IMTP for the next 3 years. So probably only a couple of points that I really want to highlight. We are obviously working on a set of assumptions, both in terms of planning priorities and financial assumptions in advance of receiving some formally from Welsh Government. So at the moment we haven't had the planning and priorities framework guidance from Welsh Government for next year. And I think, as we mentioned before, we haven't had an indication of funding settlements next year. So we've made a set of assumptions that are in the paper around what we think those priorities and assumptions should be. I think, given the context that we've already described earlier, the work that we're doing is focusing a lot on priorities, really looking at what are our priorities, what are the things that we think we've absolutely got to do, what are the things that we potentially could defer or scale back if we had to, and that work is going on at the moment. We've got the enviable task as an executive team of having a first go at looking at what the priorities might be next week. What we will do is we'll bring the sort of output from that to the board development session on the 14th of December. So hopefully that will again generate a really helpful and probably challenging discussion across the board about our priorities should be.
On the basis of today, I think your assumptions are correct. Yeah. Okay. Are board members happy to receive that as an update? Yeah, and we look forward to the development session in December with joy springing our wheels. Thank you. Oh, well, IMTP world isn't okay. Part 4, and we've already alluded to this subject several times today, which is an update on the Speaking Up Safely framework. David.
Diolch yn fawr y cadeirydd. Felly papur i'w nodi ydy hon mewn gwybodaeth. Dwi'n cymryd y gantal pawb wedi darllen y papur. Felly mae jyst yn sylw at y elfennau canlynol. Yn unol â gyflwynion y fframwaith, da ni wedi cwblhau hyn yn asesiad yn erbyn y fframwaith. Fframwaith siarad yn ddiogel. Ac wedi dal hynny at Ffordd Cymru diwedd mis Hydref. O ran yr hunan asesiad ei hun, wrth gwrs mae'n cael bod gwaith da eisoes yn cael ei wneud gan AaGIC yn y maes yma, enghraifft y gwaith a berchod yn gwmpas arweinyddiaeth dosguriol a'r polisi mynegu pryderon. Ond wrth gwrs hefyd mae'n le i wneud mwy ac i ni wella gan adlannu'r gwaith da hynny. Mae'r camau ychwanegol i weld yn y fforiad 1, y cynllun gweithredu siarad yn ddiogel, ac mae y grŵp gweithio a gorffen yn gweithredu'r cynllun ar hyn o bryd. Hoffwn hefyd gadarnhau'r ffaith bod y bwrdd wrth gwrs wedi pwyntio ar James Sadwrn fel arwyddwr siarad yn ddiogel, siarad yn ôl ysmedu, ac fy mod i fel ysgwynydd y bwrdd arwain yn weithredol yn y maes. Felly i gloi papur i'w nodi mwy gwybodaeth ydy hon y cadeirydd.
Diolch yn fawr David, and diolch am y papur. Jane, do you want to say anything as our champion?
I think the work is progressing, Chair, and David and I are going to have a catch-up on it in this coming week. And I look forward to the wire diagram in particular that we discussed earlier, which I think will in this development tease out any issues that haven't already been identified.
I do like wiring diagrams. It's visual. If you can't understand it visually, it doesn't make sense. So can we make sure that this is not an impressionist wiring diagram? More like a whole vine with a degree of accuracy. Or even candlelecto with an illumination.
Okay, no morning.
Okay, no morning. Because we haven't got the time to join up the dots by second thinking. Okay, this is a very important issue, and it's an area that's part of the dark arts in the past, and it needs light shone on it. So I know all the board members. I single out Jane as the champion, but I know all board members will want to know that there's a good sound system, and that our people within the organisation and our students in particular feel free to voice those things that are of concern.
Yeah, and just to confirm, we will be reporting regularly on progress in regards to the board.
For me personally, this is indicative of what a learning organisation is about. And if we can't learn by this, you've got to ask who is going to. Okay, so we were asking us to consider and note the update in respect of HEIW's response to the Welsh Government Speaking Up Safely framework for information. Are you happy? David, can we have a clear set of timelines linking it to reporting into government as well? That was the other thing. Right, so that it doesn't fall off the board visibility. You'll have a handle on it. Okay. Right.
Within the paper to have the actions are all into timescales.
Yeah, I meant in terms of the work programme for the board.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, because it will need to interface in the board receiving it and approving it before it goes in.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Review the standing financial instructions and scheme of delegation. Oh, Glenn.
It's me again.
My
Yeah.
God, do you want to hire us out?
I'll be fairly brief on this one.
How many have you got?
So SFIs, these are the sort of financial rules of the organisation. These have been updated. They are generally reviewed across all Wales. So we're fairly constrained in terms of any changes that we want to make to them, unless there's specific units around some of those things. These have been issued, they've been considered by our audit committee in October, who I think are recommending them for approval as well. If you want to understand what the changes are, Appendix 3, which is fairly small appendix, actually sets out what the changes to the SFIs are. And most of them are just signposting to other things like the audit committee handbook. So nothing significant, really. But obviously they are here for our adoption.
Thank you, Ben. Jill, do you want to say anything?
No, the key issues report comes afterwards, which recommends the adoption of these by the board and shows the standing orders and the SFIs.
Okay.
Apologies.
Right, so the board has been asked to review the amendments made to the standing financial instructions and note it's been awarded. Yeah. And that they are recommending approval. Approve the adoption of the standing financial instructions following the recommendation of that audit committee. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Review of standing orders, David.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, David. Felly, papur yn gofyn am gwymerodwyr ydy hon. Mae'n ddynol i'r bwrdd ystyried ei rheolau sefydlog yn flynyddol. Bydd bwrdd yn nodi bod 8 prif elfen i'r newidiadau weithedig. Mae'n fan newidiadau yn wneud gyda rheolau sefydlog gorau. Ynghyd â hynny, newidiadau sydd yn codi oherwydd newid neu deddfwriaeth newid diweddar. Felly, byddai'n gofyn i'r pwyllgor os gwelwch yn nodi'r a craffu newidiadau afaethedig hefyd i cymeradwyo ac mi ystyriwyd y newidiadau hyn yn cyfarfod bod pwyllgor craffu nôl yn y tref ac mae'n pwyllgor gofyn bod y bwrdd yn
Okay, everybody got that? Right. Are there any questions or any comments, please? So the board has been asked to review the amendments made to standing for no. The board asked to review and approve HEIW's revised standing orders, please, as in appendix 1. Can I ask your approval? Thank you very much. John? Safe journey.
Sorry, I've got to hear you on this one.
Sorry. Safe journey. Thank you for today. To receive key issue reports from the committees, and today we're having a report 4.71 of the Audit and Assurance Committee held on the 12th of October 2023. Joe.
Okay, be really brief, Chair. There's just a couple of points that I wanted to raise from the Audit Committee. We had reports from internal audit, again, a reasonable and substantial assurance, which is good. Audit Wales brought the structured assessment, which is obviously a big key piece of work for HEIW, which gave a good report of our governance, financial procedures and others. The one highlighted area was for us to concentrate on was our value to the wider partners across the system. So I think that's important for the board to take forward in the future. The workforce planning report Wales also brought to the committee, and those are being done in each of the health boards and health trusts across the piece, and I think it's important again that we get the key messages from those to bring to our wider understanding. The points were made on training, on procurement and counter fraud to make sure that the relevant people in the organisation are receiving those. I think we had some nil returns on some of the training that have been recommended. So in counter fraud, nobody I think have been on the counter fraud E module, and so the audit committee asked it's one of the actions to see whether we can make sure that the right people in the organisation are doing those training modules. And then finally, gifts, hospitality and sponsorship continues to be a mystery, I think, to the organisation in terms of any offers, and the take up of any offers, but it's important that any offers that are turned down are also proposed by the audit committee. And so the suggestion was made that we have a nil declaration in a positive sense, rather than people volunteering the information on a submission, because we've only ever had, I think, one declaration, and two, was it?
Max.
Max, yeah. And so I'm not sure that the wider staff membership are understanding the importance of declarations. So there was a suggestion that everybody in a senior level completes declaration. Everybody.
Yeah, I think we've got a good process at our commission meeting with everybody.
So it's around gifts and hospitality specifically, so declaration of interest,
Okay.
very good level of engagement.
Yeah, that's fine.
With regards to gifts and hospitality, not so good, and we're looking at the app that's been placed around there. It's important to make the process, so rather than people declaring when it happens, to see whether just give a no return, just to confirm so that they're stating about it. So there's just very well looking at.
It's just a governance issue with country.
Joe, I think if you look at those Nolan principles about integrity, avoidance of bias, and it's particularly important for us as independent members. So I'm sure the executives will want to make sure that they're in that same place. But thank you for that. So we've received that report. Are there any questions for Jill? In that case, I'm asking the board to note the content of the report from the Chair of the Audit Assurance Committee. I'm asking you to note that the Audit Assurance Committee made 2 recommendations, and they've been considered previously, and they were: the committee reviewed the amendments, made the standing financial instructions, and recommended standing financial instructions be approved, done that, and the committee reviewed the amendments to HEIW standing orders, and recommended by HEIW standing orders be approved by the November board. Yeah, thank you very much. In committee decisions, Papur yna. How will we get that enough? Just for noting, can I ask you to note that, please? Corporate risk register. We did have a discussion earlier on, Sean, with that corporate risk register in terms of the cyber, and we discussed, did we not add in another tier around that title? So that will be about being on track with our processes, but also recognising separately the threat, the global threat from cyber. Is there anything else anybody wants to highlight from or comment on the corporate risk register? So I'm asking you to note that corporate risk register. Oh, sorry, Jill. I'm so sorry.
I'm so Chair, very quick question. Have we now received the single lead employer report?
So I literally received an update from within our own organisation, but our representative who goes to the single employer meetings. And overall, this year was better than last year, but there are still some outstanding issues that we could improve on. So that risk I still think remains amber, because I think it has improved. I forwarded it to Glyn, because I think we're having a discussion with the shared services last Fridays. So you can bring something more concrete back on that once I had a conversation with you, South Carolina.
So it'll stay at the same level, at least until you've had those discussions.
Yeah, and I've got a conversation with them after this Friday.
Right.
Just briefly to add to that, the discussion we had last Friday was that we would want to build into the SLA shared service with SLA. And some appropriate indicators so we can monitor it through the SLA, which would be pushing things.
Okay. No, grateful for that. So are there any other issues that people want to raise around the corporate risk register? It's really important that we're all aware of this risk register. That's why it's here. every time, and I know it's in a noting part, but I'm keen that we actively engage with it. Okay, NHS Shared Service Partnership Committee, September 23 assurance report. That is for information and for noting. And Welsh Government reporting, members asked to receive a report submitted to Welsh Government for information. Any questions on that can be directed at Glyn. I'm happy to receive that as for noting. Thank you very much. In that case, diolch yn fawr pawb, really. Good.
4 minutes, yeah.
Amen.